So I have with me doctor from what exactly, how would you play the Nifty index first of all going into Monday, and then the next event on Thursday?
Well, Jayesh, I think we need to look at it from two sets of perspectives. One is the short term, and in the short term, as you can see on the chart, there's been a sharpish kind of cut. We had this 8-9 days of decline, and then particularly during this week, we had this 4 days of bullish day, bearish day kind of alternating sequence. Today seems to have resolved that a little bit to the top side, but I think nevertheless the short term theme seems to be a little downward, and that has brought the prices down into support. As you can see on the chart, there is the 200-day moving average, there is a short term trend line, there is a former consolidation high. Now all of this is collecting around the current levels, and that is why we saw the market halt somewhere near these levels and refuse to go down all through this week, and today we have looked up. So it seems that in the short term the price levels going down seems to have got contained. So is it a buy or not? That will largely depend upon how the weekly charts look.
Sure. And what is the weekly chart in fact telling you for the Nifty?
Well, first up, what we need to look at is the fact that the Nifty has been maintaining an uptrend. They're all higher top, higher bottom formations here. Even the top in April was a marginally higher high compared to the one which we made earlier. And very little ground since then has been lost. No doubt the week before this did see a big drop and scared a lot of people into feeling that the uptrend may be over. But overall, what we are doing is remaining in a range between about 11,000 on the downside and about 11,700, 750 on the top side for the Nifty. That's a bigger range. The smaller range will be somewhere, let's say about 500 points in width, say around 11,100, 200, going up to around 11,500, 600. So I think the market will remain in that range until the election results.
Now, Doctor, one follow-up question on this chart. I can see that you mentioned 11,550 number. Now, in case the Nifty manages to close above this on a weekly basis, what happens after this?
Well, I think it's good that you brought it up, because this 11,550 was a very critical inflection point. There were multiple days and weeks when the market would rise up from those levels, and having lost it once, it becomes a little difficult for it to regain that. So therefore, if bullish trends have to happen, then 11,550 most certainly needs to be regained. And once it stays above that, let's say if it does it before Thursday, then that will be something very good as a development. And it needs to regain above that for it to continue higher.
Sure. Now, this is about the Nifty, but what's the strategy for the Nifty bank? Because recently we have seen that has been the big underperformer, and that has not actually provided support to the Nifty.
Well, what you're saying is true in the shorter term, right? In the shorter term, they have behaved almost similarly. There is about 7-8 days of constant decline, and very similar to the Nifty here also you can see on the chart here of the Bank Nifty. This is the daily chart where the trend line and the 200-day moving average supports have been reached. And the momentum is also quite in the oversold. So similar to the Nifty, we have reached a point where we are at supports. So in the short term, there should be a bounce, and we are seeing elements of that in today's trading. But when we shift to the slightly longer term on the weekly charts, there we see a little bit of difference between the chart of the Nifty vis-a-vis the Bank Nifty. And if you look at the chart, you can see that the uptrend status is much better in the let's say the Bank Nifty compared to the Nifty, because the higher high that it recorded in April was a very clear penetration of the highs that we had seen earlier. Now, what has the Bank Nifty done is that it has created a zone, a support zone between 27,500 and about 28,500. That's about 1,000-point range, wherein you can expect any kind of decline to halt. And bearishness in the Bank Nifty will ensue only if it breaks around 27,500. Equally, the Bank Nifty has to regain territories about 29,000 for it to challenge the highs and maybe go ahead. But between the Nifty and the Bank Nifty shows a much better trend compared to the Nifty.
Sure. Thank you so much for your time.